Hi, thanks for watching. Julie Farrell with Directors Mortgage here, and I'm with Megan Beem, Business Development Director for eWorks.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Megan is a friend of mine. She started in the industry in 2019 when she moved here as an agent, as a real estate agent, and then segued over to eWorks, and I don't blame you. That company is phenomenal. So, Megan, 3 things that I found out just last week when we were hanging out and I was finding out more about eWorks that you guys really focus on are radon, tanks, and sewers.
Yes.
And I was in a meeting earlier this week where some agents and smart agents, but they had really good, simple questions about radon, and I think we just kind of have to start at the beginning. Like, what is radon?
Absolutely. So, a lot of people don't know what radon is, but radon is an invisible, naturally occurring radioactive gas, and it happens because of the decay of uranium in soil. Now, this is really prevalent in the Northwest because of the Missoula floods that happened at the end of the last ice age. So those floods pushed an enormous amount of granite-rich deposits of uranium into the soil all along the Columbia River Valley, which is the foundation on which everything is built now, lucky for us. So now we're all dealing with, high levels of radon in our homes and our buildings that we need to be careful for.
Interesting. I didn't realize that. And I'm a rock hound, so that's fascinating. So eWorks will come out and provide testing for radon in a home either that you own or you're considering purchasing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So let's walk it back a little bit. The reason that we're needing to test for radon is because it is the number 1 leading cause of lung cancer among non-smokers and the second leading cause among smokers. So what's happening is our buildings and our structures are creating what's called a thermal stack effect. So these buildings are essentially becoming giant vacuums for radon. So it's sucking in this radon gas from the surrounding soil into our homes. And these concentrations are building up to levels that are dangerous. So when you're exposed to this gas for long periods of time, that can lead to lung cancer. And now the EPA standards for testing, which is when environmental works would do something about that, is at 4 picocuries, which is just the unit of measurement that it's measured in. And that's what most realtors go off of. But what the EPA also states is that 2/3 of exposure deaths actually occur below that number. And a lot of realtors don't know that, a lot of homeowners don't know that. So the World Health Organization actually recommends action at 2.7 picocuries. So at eWorks, all of our mitigation systems, we have a lifetime transferable guarantee at 2.7 or lower because we believe that difference is actually pretty significant.
Interesting.
Yes.
So, and forgive me, I really don't know much about mitigation of radon. And I think for those of us that don't know, I'd be curious what the cost to test it, and I would presume this is just going to be a range for testing costs and mitigation costs, but can you give me a range for those things?
Absolutely. So for testing, what we'll do is we'll come out, and the most common test that you're going to find is that 48-hour continuous test. So we'll drop it, we'll leave it, we'll come back and get it. Now that test is $150. And then if you do have more time to spend, if you're just a curious homeowner, there is a more accurate test. It's an alpha track test, but it's a year period. So it's giving you very reliable data because it's testing your home throughout all seasons, all conditions of your home during the hottest days in the summer, the coldest in the winter.
Right.
So that's obviously most accurate, but during the home buying process, you don't have that kind of time to spend.
But I didn't realize that there were 2 different types of tests.
There's actually 3, but those are the 2 most common. But so the one that we're going to do most commonly is that 48-hour, and that's $150. The Alpha Track test, if you're just a curious homeowner and you have a year to spend, that's $50, and you can get that from us too.
Oh, great. And then mitigating.
Yes.
I know that there's likely different types of mitigation.
Different scales of mitigation, if it's residential or commercial, but if we're speaking residential,
let's stick with residential.
Let's stick with that. It typically ranges between that $1,800 and $2,200.
Okay. Okay. And mitigation, that gets installed in the home and it stays there permanently. Is that correct?
Forever.
Okay.
And it's basically going to the lowest point of the home. They dig, they put in a fan, and it just pulls and pumps the radon outside of the home. And we make this very nice and cosmetically pleasing to the home. The fans are very quiet, you cannot hear it. Yeah, so it's great and it's super easy to do. Mm-hmm.
Good. So the reason why this came up is that I had a buyer who had a test come back higher than what was felt safe, and so they're looking to mitigate it. Both the buyer and the seller were not in a space where they had funds to cover that additional cost with the way things were structured. Mm-hmm. And so they were looking for different options. The seller had money once the home closes, of course.
Yes.
And so one of the options that we are looking at for them as a solution is an escrow holdback, where we work with the seller to collect those funds at closing, but then the work is completed and the contractor is paid outside of closing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it can be a great solution and one that isn't often considered, and it is something, it's a case-by-case situation, but at a low cost like that with a cure, a means to an end, and a short time frame for installation, that makes it a very curable and fairly easy to obtain escrow holdback.
Oh, that's really great to know. I actually didn't know that myself, so that's wonderful.
Well, that's good for you to share with your potential clients.
Absolutely, and we've got a great lender to send them to.
Yay! Okay, so that takes care of radon. Tanks.
Yes. Let's talk tanks.
Let's do it.
So
So what are the different types of tanks that you see?
So the majority of our work that we do is residential, but we do, come into contact with some commercial jobs here and there. But the tanks that we're working with are both above ground and underground storage tanks, and these are also known as heating oil tanks. Mm-hmm. They have diesel fuel in them. Mm-hmm.
How does DEQ feel about these?
They're not fans.
I would imagine
they're not fans of these tanks. So, it's never fun when we find these tanks, but it's definitely something that needs to be taken care of.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So what is the cost for testing? Or do you have to locate them first?
We do have to locate them first, definitely. So what we do at eWorks is we do a tank locate. That's a scan of your property to find the tank, and that's $100. Now, if we do find a tank, holding your breath, fingers crossed, it's not a leaky tank or a big issue. But to decommission a tank that has not leaked, we're seeing about an average of $1,000 to $1,500.
Okay, that's not too terrible.
Not too bad. But if it has leaked, what we're going to do is we're going to do soil sampling, because we need to know if there's contamination in the soil, and we need to know the extent of that contamination. And now that is $225. Now let's say it comes back and this is a leaky tank. The average cost for repairing and decommissioning that tank is about $6,000. This is very frustrating and scary for homeowners. Obviously, the situation can get very expensive. $6,000 is just an average. If you're running into groundwater contamination or other obstacles, that can turn into a nightmare situation. So we really like to make sure that our communication with our clients is at the highest level at this point, because we don't want any room for confusion. We want all the room for trust. So we're just trying to work side by side with our clients, making sure that we're providing them with the most cost-effective solution while still meeting DEQ requirements.
And would that be just a one-stop shop with you? Would you be able to handle everything from location
we
to...
We do location, decommission, or removal.
Great.
We also certify. So
Great.
It's one-stop shop.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next topic,
sewer scopes. the nicest of all. So sewer scopes, a lot of people, I think maybe we were talking about where does it become public, where is it my problem. That definitely depends on jurisdiction, but in Portland you're going to find that, it's no longer your problem typically once you hit that curb line. Mm-hmm. It could also be at the city main, it just depends. So for our sewer scopes, if we want to get into cost, we're talking about testing. That's going to be $125.
But let's even go back a little bit further. What a sewer scope is, and I guess where do they even put in? Where does the search start? How? So
the sewer scope, you can go through the toilet. It's not recommended because you're doing a lot of winds and bends. So typically there's just a little outside of the home. There's an area for the scope to go down. Huh. It's a clean out. You just right in there.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
Very easy. It's not difficult. It's a little camera that goes in there. We make sure that there's no issues. The most common issues we're finding is pooling, which happens when there's bellies in the line. We're seeing root intrusion from trees. We're seeing
Mm-hmm.
blockage. We're seeing, natural wear and tear on based on the age of the sewer line, and just some geographical factors there that can make
Sure.
it age quicker. But that's typically the most common problems we're finding. But if we want to do a sewer scope, it's going to be $125. But if you did already have a scope done from another company and they failed it, we will do a free scope to bid. So we'll go out and we'll rescope it and give you a free bid.
Oh,
Mhm.
well, that's also good to know.
I will say we don't prefer that you go to a company first because, it's also just costing you more time, and in a real estate transaction, time is money. So you're
Sure.
going to have to come back to the expert, get on our schedule, and do exactly what we would have done for you the first time. So it's just easier to come to us the first time, but, we'll step in when we need to.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. And I asked you this before we got together. What's the most surprising thing that you've learned about sewer lines since joining eWorks?
So, sewer lines. I've learned so many surprising things about everything. But sewer lines, party lines are still a thing. They're still a nuisance for everyone involved. No one likes to hear that.
So what is a party line? I know what it is, but
A
let's
party
presume
line,
that not
let's
everyone
say
does.
typically you want, from your home, you want a direct connection to the public sewer line.
Mhm.
But sometimes in neighborhoods you have, your neighbor might be connected to yours first, like together, there's a joining point, and then it's going to go to the public sewer line. So those are
Mhm.
non-conforming sewer lines.
Right.
Yeah.
And from a lending perspective, if that is pointed out and we're aware that there's a party
Mhm.
line, if that's not to city code, it will have to be repaired to code in order for the property to transfer.
Yes, you have to abandon the party line and make a direct connection for yourself.
Right.
And then it's a little bit tricky to figure out who's responsible. You have to
Yeah.
bring your neighbor into play, and they
Who's
don't want
not
to hear
selling their
that.
home.
Yeah, now they're just inconvenienced and frustrated, but we
It
take
can-
care of it.
It
yeah.
can be a really delicate space, so that's great to
100%.
know that you guys can handle all of it. You follow all of the DEQ certifications, and
Yeah.
you guys have a great reputation. Every client that you've served of mine, you've done a great job, and I appreciate what you do for them. So
Yeah, I'll say at eWorks, we just consider our clients our family, our realtors our family. We think of this as if we were moving into this home, our friends were moving into this home, we want to take care of you. I think that, none of these costs that we talked about are cheap. These can be very expensive repairs. And so you want to make sure you're working with a contractor that you trust, someone who isn't going to upsell you things that don't need to happen right now, which happens more than you would think at other companies. And you want a company that isn't going to overlook critical issues that are necessary to take care of right now. And that's us.
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining me
Thank you,
here.
Julie. This was wonderful.
All right. Well, if you've got questions on sewer lines, tanks, and radon, Megan
I
is
am your go-to girl.
our expert.
Bye, guys.